I got up I usually get up early, but I got up earlier than normal today. Usually I get up around 5, but I was up at like 3:30 doing a lot of thinking. And I really wanted to share this to somebody. The title is Life is Fighting You, Fight It Back. And I hear people a lot of times say, this thing is fighting me, it's fighting me, it's fighting me. My tagline is come back swinging. No matter what it is that you've gone through, no matter what it is that has happened in your life, don't lay down in it. I think the key to victory is being persistent. And no matter how many times you get knocked down, is getting back up. When I was behind bars and I did a program for addiction, I remember they talked about the difference between a lapse and a relapse. And what they explained was that a lapse is when both a lapse and a relapse is when a person goes back to the thing that it was that they swore they wouldn't go back to. The difference is that a relapse is when a person stays in it. And that really struck me as powerful because I feel like sometimes in life we go through things and we're struggling against things, and the problem isn't necessarily going back to it or falling back into it. The problem is that we lay in it and we stay there, and months go by and years go by and we've given up the fight. And I think it's a reason why Paul said you got to fight the good fight of faith. And I think all of us, I'm talking to you, I'm really talking to me. I think all of us have certain struggles and issues in life that we fight against. For some, it's all types of vices. Put it that way. I don't even have to give examples. And I believe everybody fights against a vice. Some on a heavier level than others, but all of us have things that we're fighting against. And I really want to encourage somebody this morning to not give up. Don't just let that thing beat you. Don't let it defeat you. I remember it was this pivotal moment in the 1940s when so many people were telling Winston Churchill, he was the leader of Britain during World War II, that, you can't fight against Hitler, you can't beat him, you might as well just give up. And his council was against him, his ministers were against him, much of the country was against him. At some point, even the king himself thought Winston Churchill was crazy, because how can you beat this juggernaut called Nazi Germany? And, he made a good point. He said that nations that have been in war and fought and lost, even though they were defeated, they were still able to come back. Maybe it was years, maybe it was decades later, but they were able to reemerge. But every single nation that surrendered has never come back. And that's a pivotal point. So as it goes with nations, so it goes with us. Don't surrender. Fight back. No matter what it is that you're going through. I believe that is the message of Christ. Remember, he said that I came, that you will have troubles in this world. You will have troubles. But I came that you might overcome them. And so I want somebody this morning to just wake up and feel that, one, God is on your side. He's not against you. He's not angry at you. He's on your side. And he's rooting for you to win. And this thing might be a battle. It might be a battle. I do believe that there is a grace of God to lift some things off of our lives and we never fight against it again. But I also do believe that there is a grace, a sustaining grace. That's why Paul said, I prayed 3 times that this thorn will be removed from my flesh. And we're talking about Paul, who was able to raise people from the dead. That Paul. Paul who, when was stoned and he got back up. That Paul. Paul who preached and set up churches all across what is today Asia Minor. That Paul. That great Paul. When he prayed that God would remove the thorn from his side, the answer was, my grace is sufficient for you. And so there are some things I believe that we, unfortunately, perhaps for the remainder of our lives, may have to fight against. But the key is to not surrender, to not give up, to fight it back, to come back swinging, and to know that God is on your side. And if God be for you, who can be against you? That is why it says that we are more than conquerors. Conquerors fight. Conquerors don't just lay down. Conquerors might get knocked down, but they don't stay down. Conquerors might get pushed down, but they don't stay down. And I do believe that in you is a fighter spirit, and in you is the power of victory. And to channel your victory, you got to know that there is a moment that even though you might have slipped, even though you might have fallen, even though you may have gone back to the thing you swore you wouldn't, that God is with you, and now is the time to get back up. And don't you listen to the voice of the enemy that says, well, you did it again, you might as well stay in it. That's what the enemy says. That's what shame says. And I'm telling you that the voice of God is the voice that says, get back up. I'm with you, and you are more than a conqueror. Good morning. Thanks for joining with me early in the morning. We're talking about being more than a conqueror and coming back from defeat. On that note, I'll close with this, because a lot of times people come to me and they ask me, how do you come back from defeat? So many people have had failures in life, and I'm a living example. How do you come back? I'm going to tell you how you come back from defeat. You come back from defeat by standing up and saying, I'm bigger than what I just went through. I'm bigger than my circumstances. It really starts in here. It may sound corny, but it's true. It starts right here. It starts with truly believing I can come back. I can come back. And that's the story of Christ. Put on the cross. The darkness rolled. It was in the middle of the day, and the sun was blotted out, and it was dark for 3 hours, and everybody thought it was over until the third day when he rose again. And the story of the risen Christ is that we might die, we might go through failure, but coming back up is really the victory. That's the true victory. I was reading a book called The Road to Character by David Brooks. I encourage you to read it. It's a great book. He teaches humility classes at Yale. And I can't remember the exact quote, so work with me, y'all. But he said something to the effect of that sin is a natural part of our moral makeup. And he said, I know it sounds ironic, but it is, because he says that's the thing that we fight against. That if we had nothing to fight against, we would never know our own virtue. And I really thought about that, because if you think about it, great generals don't become great generals in peacetime. Calm seas, when I traveled to China, I remember they had a saying over there, calm seas don't make skilled sailors. Now, we don't glorify calamity, but what we do glorify is coming back up, coming back swinging, coming back more powerful, coming back more prolific, and knowing that God is with you.